Good afternoon. There you all are. Hi, welcome to this Risk Crew webinar this afternoon. I'm Nick Roberts. I'm a director here at Risk Crew, and we're broadcasting live from our London office. We're just south of Tower Bridge in Bermondsey. So welcome. Thanks for your time this afternoon. This is, I think, the 8th or 9th webinar that we've run over the spring and summer. And this is the 4th in the testing series of seminars that we've run. So what we'll be looking at this afternoon is the things that you should have covered when you're engaging a testing supplier. We're going to look at the things that you should discuss and have documented within any contracts or service level agreements. It's a pretty dry subject, but it's very, very important. Because if you haven't got proper documentation or SLAs, your testing provider doesn't know the specifics of any testing objectives or compliance requirements you have for testing. And most importantly, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know you're getting what you pay for if the methodology, the scope isn't covered within the testing documentation. So if you can contain your excitement, that's what we're going to look at this afternoon. We're going to focus on 7 key points that you should have covered in any documentation you have with a testing provider. So we're going to try and make this fairly interactive. So if you have any questions, on the bottom of your control panel, there's a section there for chat. So if you have any questions, I will field them as we go through the webinar this afternoon, and we'll certainly have some time at the end to do a bit of a Q&A session. So I'm Nick Roberts. I've been in this business, goodness me, for 15 years. I'm with Risk Crew for a little over 5 years. I'm more on the governance, risk and compliance side of the business. So shortly I will introduce you to my colleague Jeff. Jeff's been with us for just under a couple of years, and he's one of our senior testing consultants. So he's going to pick up the bulk of this presentation. So we'll bring Jeff in just a jiffy for Jeff. I can see from the audience that there's quite a few friendly faces, present or past clients, but there's quite a few new faces as well. So if we could just very briefly look at who we are and what we do. I guess in the shell of a nut, we're a company of information risk professionals for information risk professionals. We've got 3 core services. The first is obviously penetration testing. We've got a team of very experienced testing engineers. We have a full portfolio of testing services, pen testing, Wi-Fi testing, Internet of Things testing. We're doing some quite sexy stuff around IoT at the moment. So testing is one of our core services. We also have a team of experienced governance, risk and compliance consultants. So we work with our clients to help them implement risk management frameworks and methodologies, get compliant with or certified to ISO 27001. Data protection has obviously been very busy for us, and things like PCI DSS. So we've got a big team of compliance consultants. And finally, we're a huge advocate of staff education and awareness. So we're really passionate at delivering good security training and education to our client staff. So the core service are people, process and technology, testing, compliance and training. And we're pretty confident in what we do and that we can achieve customer satisfaction. We underwrite that with a 100% money back guarantee. We're very strong on knowledge transfer, hence these series of seminars and webinars that we've been running over the summer. And whenever we engage with a client, we like to impart and instill our security knowledge. So you've got a full view of what we've done, what we've found, and how you need to fix things. And we, as I say, we underwrite that. I think it's pretty unique in this business with a 100% guarantee. So that's that's the sales pitch over with. So what are we going to look at in the next 30 minutes? So these are the topics that that Jeff's going to cover. And as I say, please, if you have questions, shoot them in. I'll be monitoring them and feeding them into Jeff. Or as I say, we've got some time at the end. So we're going to look at what is security penetration testing. Look at the relationship between scanning, testing, red teaming. What's the difference? You need to know what you're getting for your money, and this all needs to be documented in contracts and service level agreements. And Jeff will be explaining why it's so important that everything is documented. It's important for the testing company as well to fully understand what your objectives are, what the scope is. So just going to take you through the 7 key points to include within any contract or service level agreement that you have with a provider, as well as looking at other things to consider. And as I say, at the end, we'll have some time for a bit of Q&A. If you guys have any questions to fire over to us, please keep them coming. So at this point, I will see if Jeff is there. Jeff, are you there? Come in, please. All the way from downstairs in our office. There he is, Jeff. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Good.
A little bit disappointed with this webinar. Unfortunately, I've been demoted downstairs.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, whatever.
Jeff, over to you. I'll if you see me pop up, Jeff, in your window, that means I've got a question. But I shall bug out now and let you crack on.
Perfect. Right, great stuff. So I guess we should start with penetration testing. So I guess it's evolved a lot over the last few years, especially as we've got a better understanding of attack patterns. Firstly, pen testing. This is not a vulnerability scan, nor is it a red team. I know that's going to disappoint a lot of people out there who disagrees with me, but I just want to put that on the line out there. And for what it's worth, look, I believe in old school pen testing, not using scanners to validate findings, but working with practitioners who understand attack patterns, exploitations, and different scenarios. And just to give you a guide, that as testers, we simulate attackers to find as many ways into the environment as possible, to identify exposures and provide evidence of that journey, to protect your most critical data, and fundamentally for you to build a better defense and put protection in place. Now, just want to point one thing out here, as I did touch on scanners earlier. The only time that we would use a scanner is right at the very end of the test, and that's just to get rid of any low-hanging fruit. And I think that industry needs to wake up and recognise that. So when we are testing, we use techniques such as exploitation, privilege escalation, lateral movement, post-exploitation scenarios, exfiltration of data, and command and control. So all of these are key parts, key components, but again, you need to have the basics in there. And if you are using pen testing, again, just use it to find as many, how many direct attack avenues you have in your infrastructure to increase your awareness and just fundamentally to give you a clean bill of health. And I think it's so important to identify where you have deviations, where you have gaps, in order to prioritize your time and build a secure program, really. So we've just touched on pen testing. If we're looking at scanning, again, the two are so different. I think with scanners, you're leveraging automation through vulnerability scanners to identify common configuration or patch issues. And this is a key component if you don't understand asset inventory or what you have in your organization and how to address those needs. Again, all using scanners for is just to catch some of the low-hanging fruit and use this as a baseline for hardening, really. So in a nutshell, that's pen testing, that's scanning, and now we can move on to what you should have in your contract. So when you are engaging with a potential company, I think it's so important to have things on paper. Keep it clean, keep it legal. Let's face it, when you are engaging in pen testing, in a sense, you're breaking into an application or network. So ensure you have the right legal protection in front of you prior to testing. The goal of the agreement should be to protect both the customer and the provider as it manages expectations all up front. And again, the contract is just their peace of mind. It's going to resolve any legal disputes, pricing concerns, and address any compliance requirements as well. So if we move on to, you've got the, you know what's having your contract. I guess, look, the golden handshake, why is this important? Well, the supplier needs to provide a service to the company. And again, it's one of those things you want to get off your back, really. I know that the legal team is not the most happiest bunch in an organisation, but you want to keep them happy, get them to review all documentations, including an NDA as well, before you engage with a customer. I know a lot of people don't like doing it, but get the NDA done as first point of call as well. Scoping is one of the most important parts of pen testing, and this is going to determine a good job from a bad job. To understand the requirements, set up a call or meeting to understand what's in scope. Based on the scoping call, a methodology is drafted which will set the parameters for testing, and this is going to ensure that all critical parts of the network, all applications are identified, avoiding potential problems later in the process. So it's so important just to have that handshake, confirm a few things with both companies, get the legal team to address them and approve them, and then that's the first point of call. So I think once we've got the contract, the handshake done, what are we going to include in it? So there's certain things that we've got down here: objective, compliance, methodologies, testing, qualifications, and reporting notes. If it was down to me, look, use this as an example, a certain framework. So I wish to have a pen test. 1, for a clean bill of health. 2, because the application holds credit card data and it's a compliance requirement, so I have to get it done by a CREST certified company. The methodology that I'd like you guys to follow must follow the OWASP top 10 guidelines, and I want you to show evidence of that attack in the report. The report must include a technical and non-technical summary for both sides of the team, and the assessment should include retesting, and this needs to be delivered before October. So I think you kind of need to raise in points, really. I'm having a web app test. It's a PCI requirement. I need you to follow the OWASP guides. I need to have a technical and non-technical version, and any critical vulnerabilities will be raised with immediate effect as well. So I'm just going to go into each one of those that you've just seen on the previous screen there. The first one being objectives. Okay, and I think it's really good to have a clear goal and identify what your objectives are in any test. I think once you've assessed your needs, you can translate them into objectives, but they need to be clearly stated before testing commences. So, for example, can the organisation gain a foothold in the network? Can we have unauthorised access to our systems or assets? Can your externally facing controls keep out the bad actors? Can we gain user credentials when we're phishing? And if we are looking at red team, can we get access to your crown jewels or your critical data? And be very, very specific on your testing requirements, objectives, sorry. Otherwise, you're just going to see a load of vulnerabilities that have little or no correlation to risk. Okay, into compliance again. I know Nick upstairs is very keen on GRC and compliance. So ensure that the contract states any legal or best practice requirements. Different sectors, they must adhere to different standards. Example, healthcare, this needs to comply with the HIPAA privacy and security rules. The defence sector needs to follow the CMMC framework, and businesses that handle credit cards data need to follow PCI requirements. And I could just give you an example of that. Like if you have a web app test which holds credit card data, it's a PCI requirement for quarterly ASV scanning, and on top of that, you must have an annual penetration test as well. Failure to comply could result in a heavy fine or loss of business privileges and opportunities. And acting on the results of a pen test will help you minimise the risk of penalties. So make sure you get that done, get that addressed, get the quarterly scans and the pen test done as well. Nick, I know, as they say, I know that you are a GRC guru over here. Are there any kind of testing specific requirements around GDPR?
Jeff, I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, absolutely. It's a requirement under GDPR Article 32 that you conduct regular testing, the effectiveness of technical measures, ensuring the security of personal data. So it is actually a legal requirement in the UK Data Protection Act and the European GDPR. So absolutely, and that's why it's so important. If you're commissioning a test, you let the tester know that that's one of your objectives of you want to comply with GDPR, and you get that documented within the contract or within the service level agreement, so that you know what you're getting and the tester knows that's one of your key objectives.
Perfect.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so we know that we're going to have a pen test done. We have to have it done for compliance issues. I think moving on from there, we need to look at kind of methodologies. And I think you need to state the kind of testing methodology that's going to suit you. There's various boxes. Black box testing, where testers know the target but have no knowledge beyond what the public has. And white box testing, this is where testers get detailed information about the target system, including source code configurations and system documentation as well. Once you have the methodology sorted, you probably want to line that up with a certain framework. Like I did say, OWASP, this helps identify vulnerabilities in web and mobile applications, the OWASP top 10. And then you have OSSTMM, which identifies security vulnerability present in the network, which is more for your infrastructure. And NIST as well, this offers a more specific guideline to improving the overall security of an organization. Only my opinion, but look, the testing market is becoming a little bit saturated. I think standards are dropping and prices are unfortunately increasing. So just be aware, look, take the time to understand what's the difference between scanning and what the difference is between testing. Again, iron this out in a contract before you get started, but you can usually spot the difference when someone hands you back a report which clearly states that you've cut and pasted and listed output and just blasted it over the report, which adds little or no value.
Jeff, sorry, I've got a quick question. You talked about white box testing and black box testing. I know they're two completely different methodologies, and you'll get completely different results depending on whether you use white or black box testing. Where would, and I know we're an advocate of white box testing, where would a black box test be used, and what's its limitations? Yeah,
so I think very true. I think maybe about 95% of our business at the minute is all white box testing. Black box testing will only test the strength of your firewall and will not identify any vulnerabilities within your network or web application. And as you just mentioned there, yeah, we always advocate testing with user credentials, which is white box testing. I think it just gives you, that way you can tell the whole environment and not just the parameter. So it's a good way to start, and I think that's common practice now. Like I did say, I think 95% of our tests at the minute are going out white box testing.
And I guess that's why it's so important, again, to get this documented, the methodology documented, so that you clearly understand what's going to be delivered. Because if it isn't documented, it's very difficult to argue it after the event. And I know we work with a lot of our clients that maybe haven't done testing before or don't have a dedicated security resource. You know, talk to your tester, ask them what the difference is, ask them what the pros and cons are, and ask them what the deliverables will be, depending on the different methodologies available.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's, again, it's building a rapport between both parties, because if you are a little bit blind to security testing, if someone would ask me for user credentials, I'd be like, well, why are you asking me for user credentials? Surely you just want to break in. I think that's someone who doesn't kind of understand. So again, you just need to put a little bit of context around it, explain the difference or the benefits between white and black box. If you're looking at black box as well, it's probably going to be more expensive to get to the same goal. So just ensure the client knows what they're getting in for, and then they understand the reasoning behind it as well.
And get it documented.
Get it all on paper.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
which is good. Yeah, so look, once you've got the methodology, I guess the next port of call is scope. For me, this is the most important part of any test, and this is going to deliver a maximum business value. So clearly state what's in the scope and have this confirmed and backed up in the proposal. Identify which assets are most critical to your system. Specify the infrastructure components. Get down all the live IP addresses and ranges, operating systems, supporting infrastructure, URLs. If there are any web apps and APIs to follow as well, get it all on paper and ensure you know what you're getting. At the same time, look, once you've included what's in scope, I think it's very good to include what's out of scope. Are there any areas that's going to be out of bounds, any IPs, URLs or VPNs that are not to be tested? And this is critical for any liability purposes. So again, the most important part of any test is the scope, and this is going to determine a good test from a bad test. So make sure that you bring all your objectives, your goals, you get that on paper, and include again what's going to be out of scope.
Sorry, Jeff, me again. Yeah, it's such an important area, isn't it? Getting the right scope, and I hear you all the time when we're engaging with new clients. You're asking for the URL that we're testing, and also credentials to get into any areas of the web app or the network, so that before we even put together the documentation and any pricing, that we can have a good look at the infrastructure to be tested, and we can make suggestions to our clients as well. And again, that goes back to your point of signing an NDA, because once we start getting credentials and gaining access to your networks, it's very important that we're under confidentiality agreements with you. So that's something to get signed off early in any engagement.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the NDA is so important as well. It depends how you want to plan this out. So I speak to a lot of companies as well, and some people don't even take the time to speak to the client. They just send out a questionnaire, a random questionnaire, and a lot of it doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of words put together. It usually goes on from maybe 4 or 5 different pages. It doesn't really add any value. I think it's so important to actually speak with the tester so they understand the scope. And again, if you just want to add, like it is, say you have the NDA in place, then you can always provide credentials, let the tester have a good look inside, and so that way he can actually find and identify what's going to be in scope and kind of give you a clear proposal outlining his works.
Great, thanks, Jeff.
So qualifications and scheduling. So I guess you put it down to, if you have a leak at home, you're always going to hire a qualified plumber. I think the same rule should apply when you are working. If you want someone to work on your critical infrastructure, again, you want to request the names and the qualifications of the tester, just to ensure that their certs are valid and in date. Very much like scoping as well, build a rapport with the tester, discuss goals, objectives in order to build a solid security program. Approved testing times, for example, testing is going to take place between Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Discuss timeframes. Are you under any pressure for the go live date? How long will testing take? Make sure that they are fully aware that you need the test completed at so-and-so date. And always factor in a retest. Look, there's no point having a test if you're not going to fix the issues, address the vulnerabilities, and sort them out. So again, just to reiterate there, look, a lot of PCI requirements have it in that you must get testing completed by a CREST certified company. So just follow the guidelines on that, really. And just the number one point, this is one of my big pet hates, really, because there's a number of companies out there that we've done tests for 6 months later. We offer them, we go back and we do a pen test over the same application. Vulnerabilities are still there. They're not taking the time to fix some of these issues, and that's so frustrating from our point of view, because if we are looking to build a solid security program, they need to follow our advice and guidance on that, really.
And Jeff, I know a number of testing companies occasionally or more often may use outsourced testers. Is that acceptable? And if it is, how should that be documented within the project paperwork?
First of all, it is acceptable. Would I like it if I was using a big company and they were shipping it out to a third party and taking money from the top? Probably not. A lot of companies do it nowadays. I just think that you have to be clear. If it is going to be third parties, you need to know that needs to be documented in there, and you need to agree with it. Would I do it? I'm not so sure. If I'm hiring a company to do the work, I'd like them to carry out the work, but that's my personal opinion there.
So what you're saying is ask the question, will you be using outsourced testers, and get it documented? And if they are using outsourced testers, have they got the same qualifications? Are they CREST qualified testers? Again, get it documented.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the most important things as well. Get everything documented, get it in a contract, get it approved by the legal entities as well, and that way it just covers your back as well. You know exactly what you're getting.
Sure. Okay.
Well, we're there already. So vulnerability notifications. Now, what does that mean? So if there are any critical vulnerabilities that are brought up during testing, the tester must contact you immediately. First of all, once they verify that it is a critical vulnerability, they should be straight on the phone to you, to the point of contact, and hey, listen, we just found this here. We're going to stop testing at the minute. We advise you to do the remediations of this. The tester should put some guidance around the vulnerability. He should give some advice about remediation work. And then once that has been fixed, then again, you can start testing and progress with the remainder of the test. But if there's anything critical, again, be straight on the phone, be proactive, speak to the company, let them know what you found, put a bit of context around it as well. From there, as soon as they do give you a green light and that's been remediated, then you can continue.
So yeah, so make sure that the testing company has got contact details of the relevant people, direct phone numbers, mobile numbers, and an email address, so that when, if and when we need to escalate a critical vulnerability, we've got the right contacts who we need to inform in real time. But also the other way around, and I know this, a test that we did about 4 months ago, quite a big test. My contact details were in the service level agreement, and my mobile phone started going nuts at about 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, it was one of the client's network guys. Their intrusion detection was going nuts, and they were wondering if it was us doing testing that had caused this intrusion detection to trigger. And you know, our testers are enthusiastic, but they're not working at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. But at least the client had a contact, and I was able to assure him that that any traffic he was seeing was not from us. So again, the point is, make sure that you've got your respective contact details fully documented, so you know who to contact in the event of an issue.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's vitally important to have a point of contact on the inside in case anything arises. And again, clearly stating in contract, name, telephone number, email, at a minimum. Because yeah, if something does go wrong, or when they find something very juicy, look, we want to be telling you about those things immediately.
Yeah.
So I did say earlier, probably the most important part of any test is the scoping, which it is, but a close second is reporting. And I think at minimum, you need to ensure that the report is going to contain locations of the vulnerabilities, a definition of each vulnerability, so you know exactly what it is, a classification of the vulnerability along with evidence of its exploitation, the potential impact on the business if this vulnerability was to be exploited. What would happen if we exploit it? How would that then plan out? And a step-by-step guide for remediations. Now, a good pen tester it's always good to build a good rapport with your pen tester, because he needs to write a contextualized journey of the assessment, and you need to ensure that he's just not going to fill the report with cut and paste necessary output. Again, the report should contain business impact assessment for each vulnerability, which is mapped out in the CVSS, which is a common vulnerability scoring system, which is comparable scoring from critical to high to medium to low, and so on and so forth. But then again, build the rapport with a tester. Hopefully, look, if you're going to be building a solid security program, you want to be speaking to him. You're going to be speaking to him for the next 3 to 5 years. To have that consistency, understand his reports, understand his terminologies, and just remember, the tester is never going to advise on the remediation. He's never going to fix the problem for you. He's just going to put some kind of clarification around the vulnerabilities for you, so you understand where it is and how to verify it. And yeah, so when you are sending your reports, again, these are going to contain some critical information. So when you are sending documentation, just ensure that it is securely sent, password protected, encrypted, VPNs. Again, just for added protection on your side, and get that confirmed that it is going to be sent out in the report, in the contract as well.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I think it's also important, Jeff, to have some sort of workshop session with the testing engineer. I know our clients, we always do it, and our clients find it very useful, so that once you've delivered the report, you can get on a Teams or a Zoom session or a face-to-face meeting with the tester, so the tester can put some narration around what can be a pretty dry report, to explain exactly what we found, where we found it, and give further remediation advice. That's particularly important, as I said earlier, for companies that don't have a huge technical or security resource. So if you feel that would be valuable for you, discuss it with your testing company, and again, make sure that's documented.
Yeah, definitely. There's no point having a test if you're not going to have a retest. And I think it's so important, again, to have that relationship with the tester as well, just so he can put some real life narration around the reports, and just so they'll be able to understand what happens through the attacker's eyes. I don't think that we should use testing as just a tick in the box exercise. Go that little bit further. Testing is a very important part in today's world. It's also a very expensive part in today's world. So again, just make sure if you're going to have a test, have a retest, and just request that you are going to have a workshop, just so you can put some context around the report as well. And again, it's just a good way to ask some questions and answers at the end. Hone your skills. There might be some things that you don't quite understand, or when you're reading, it's not going to kind of you're not going to read it too well. So again, it's just important to have that Q&A session as well, and really build the rapport so you fully understand.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about knowledge transfer. Just the report isn't necessarily good knowledge transfer. You need the comment and an interactive Q&A session with the guys that are doing the test.
Yeah, most definitely, 100%. So yeah, just kind of other things to consider as well. What we've just gone through here is the kind of basics, what to include in a contract or SLA. Again, you don't have to kind of stick to that, but that's the kind of guidelines here. Just other things to consider as well. Get the right people involved. I think you need to have an open conversation. You need to know exactly where you're standing right from the get-go. If you are going to get the CTO or the CISO involved, make sure that you get the right people in the room, have an open conversation, discuss objectives, targets, and certain goals that you want. And then you can kind of build something around that, really. By talking directly to some of your stakeholders and asking for any feedback, you can address what's working, what's not working, capture any opportunities for improvement, and ensure that any gaps or issues are going to be addressed within the room as well.
Okay, Jeff, that was superb. Yeah, you've brought a pretty dry subject to light there, or to life, I should say. Contract documentation for a testing engagement. I guess the bottom line is get it in writing to ensure that you get what you pay for.
I think from experience as well, even from our side, look, no one likes drafting up contracts, NDAs, SLAs, things like that. But it's so important. If something does go wrong, you need to have that hard copy, which is there. At the end of the day, this is going to be the thing that protects you. So it's one of the things that we don't like to do. It's one of the conversations that we don't like to have because it's additional work. But I think it's one of the things that needs to be done. It needs to be done right from the start. And then once that's done, then you can obviously concentrate on the juicy things like we touched on earlier, the scoping, the reporting, the testing, the delivery of the report, and having the workshop as well. I think these are really key things to building a solid security program.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Right now, I think it is time for some questions and answers. I have to say our audience haven't been particularly vocal. One question that did come up earlier, but I think you covered it, Jeff, was retesting. Is it essential that retesting is included? I think I know the answer to that.
Yeah, look, 100%. I can't emphasize, if you're going to pay, it's sometimes it's a lot of money to have a pen test. If you are going to have a pen test done, again, don't just have a pen test for the sake of a tick in the box exercise. Understand the reasons why you're going to have a penetration test. Have the retest. The worst thing, the biggest pet hate from our side is coming back to an application 6 months, 12 months later, and finding the same vulnerabilities.
Same vulnerabilities, yeah.
It's crazy, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot. I think that's one of the good things about what we do here. I think we include a free retest because it's just going to give you that incentive to go out, fix the problems, do it within 30 days, and we can come back and give you a clean bill of health.
Yeah. And how often should we be doing testing?
Every week.
I wish.
It would keep the FT happy anyway. So it depends really. I think as we are moving on in years and getting a bit more knowledge on security, I think we are having it done a lot more often. Some companies are having it quarterly done, biannually. I think at a minimum you need to have it done at least once a year. I think you need to find some of these holes, you need to plug them, and I think it's really good to do it. My personal opinion, I'd like to get it done quarterly, but I understand that due to the criticality of the application or whatever, the budget restraints, some people only can get it done once per year. So
I know that's best practice within, as you touched on PCI. I mean, even if you're not processing cardholder data, I mean, the best practice is considered an annual penetration test and much cheaper and quicker quarterly scanning. Yeah.
At the same time as well, look, if you haven't got enough money to do a pen test quarterly, you need to be doing some of the basics. As a company, you need to be doing your patching, your updating, and things like that. You need to be keeping up with the.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you do come to a pen test, you want to be focusing on the critical areas and not going back to kind of old problems, really.
And of course, if you make any major changes to your infrastructure or website, or you launch a mobile app or an API, that should be tested when you make any major changes.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with that. Any new application, get it tested before the go live date as well. Just rule of thumb, clean bill of health, make sure it goes. If it's going to go out to the general public, you want to ensure that someone in a CREST certified company has actually come in and give you that clean bill of health as well.
Okay, and final question, and this is one from me. What's the biggest mistake a buyer, a company can make when they're commissioning a penetration test?
I think it's scope, really. Just touching back on scope, I think it is, from what I said earlier, that the most important part of any pen test It clearly identifies the objectives and targets, and it's just a good way to get things on paper. And I think if you haven't got a good scope, then you're not going to have a good test. You're not going to be satisfied with the results.
Great. Okay, that's it from the Q&A. But guys in the audience, if you've got any other questions, Jeff and I, you'll have contact details at the end of this session. So please don't hesitate to pick up the phone or drop us an email. We'd be very happy to answer any questions you may have around pen testing, and particularly around the documentation that you should expect to have in place with your tester. So yeah, please get in touch. So thanks for your time this afternoon, everyone. I hope you found that useful. As I say, this is one of a series of webinars that we've been running across the spring and summer. This is on your screen now. These are the this is webinar, as I say, this is webinar 4 of 5 webinars that we're doing in our testing series of webinars. And you can download this and the previous 3 from the Risk Crew website, riskcrew.com. So please, if you want to pick up these webinars, you can find them all on the Risk Crew site, along with lots of other white papers, blogs and posts. As I say, we are in the knowledge transfer business. Oh, there goes the phone. Very good. So whoops.
Must have been a successful webinar if they're coming in already.
Almost, yeah. We went right to the last minute there, and we almost looked professional, Jeff. So hold on a second. I've been thrown right off my game now. So there's our contact details. You can get us on the phone in the office or by email. And we'd also like to know how useful you found this website, this webinar. So if you could just stay on the line for 30 seconds and complete a quick survey. I think it's about 6 multi-choice questions that we ask. Takes 30 seconds, and you'll be entered. Get ready for this. You'll be entered into a draw for a complimentary website vulnerability test. How's about that? So yes, please take the 30 seconds to complete the short survey after myself and Jeff disappear. So again, that's it from us. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar in a couple of weeks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.